What if the most dangerous battlefield in the world is not a city, a mountain range, or a missile silo, but a narrow strip of water that can fit between two nations and still shake the global economy? At first glance, the Strait of Hormuz looks almost ordinary on a satellite image. It appears as a thin blue corridor between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, a passage of water, a line on a map. But that line carries something far greater than ships. It carries energy. Tankers move through this maritime artery carrying a significant portion of the world's oil supply. A disruption here is not just a regional military event. Markets, industries, and governments thousands of miles away. The Strait of Hormuz is the hero of this story, not because it fires missiles, not because it launches drones, but because it concentrates power. A small geographic space where military technology, economic survival, and geopolitical influence collide. And, for decades, Iran has understood one strategic truth. A narrow battlefield can give a smaller power a larger voice. Iran did not need to defeat the United States in a traditional naval war. It did not need a fleet equal to America's. It did not need to control the oceans. It only needed to create enough uncertainty inside this narrow corridor. Enough uncertainty to make ships hesitate. Enough uncertainty to make markets react. Enough uncertainty to force a superpower to spend billions defending movement through a place only a few dozen miles wide. That was the visible war. The war everyone expected. Coastal missiles, drones, mines. A strategy built around making the Strait of Hormuz too dangerous to ignore. But here's the problem. The battlefield has changed. Because the modern fight over Hormuz is no longer only about who can strike. It is about who can see first, decide faster, and survive the cost of every exchange. And that changes everything. For years, military planners studied a nightmare scenario. A massive wave of inexpensive Iranian drones and missiles moving toward American ships and allied bases. The concern was not that one weapon would destroy a fleet. The concern was mathematics. A cheap weapon attacking an expensive defense system creates pressure. A drone costing tens of thousands of dollars could force a defender to launch an interceptor costing millions. The question was never simply, can the United States shoot down the threat? The question was, can it afford to keep doing it? Because in modern warfare, economics has become another battlefield. A missile can be defeated in the sky, but the cost of defeating that missile continues on the ground. Inside supply chains, inside national budgets. The Strait of Hormuz became a laboratory for this new kind of conflict. A place where military power was measured not only by destruction, but by efficiency. And Iran built its strategy around a contradiction. The country had weapons that were relatively cheap, difficult to ignore, and easy to produce. But those same weapons depended on something far more fragile. Information. A drone needs a launch point. A missile needs targeting data. A maritime attack requires awareness of where ships are moving. The weapon is only the final step. The real battlefield begins before the weapon ever leaves the ground, far away from the water, hidden behind screens and antennas. Another battle is taking place. The battle for visibility. Because the side that sees the battlefield controls the battlefield. American forces built a layered network around the region. Aircraft scanning the skies, ships carrying advanced radar systems, unmanned platforms collecting information, electronic warfare aircraft designed to disrupt enemy communications. The purpose was not simply to destroy incoming weapons. It was to remove the element of surprise. And the part most people miss is this. A drone is not dangerous because it flies. A drone is dangerous because someone knows where to send it. Take away the eyes guiding the attack, and the weapon becomes far less powerful. That idea was tested repeatedly in the Strait. Iranian drones represented the visible threat. But behind those drones were the invisible systems that made them useful. Radar stations, communication links, command networks, the nervous system behind the attack. And this created the first major contradiction. Iran's strategy depended on using cheap systems to overwhelm a stronger opponent. But those cheap systems depended on expensive, sophisticated infrastructure that could itself become a target. The weapon was not the entire system. This is where modern warfare begins to look different. A battlefield is no longer just a place where two armies exchange fire. Break the network, and the weapons attached to it begin to lose meaning. But the Strait of Hormuz has another layer. Every military decision here creates economic consequences. A drone launched toward a tanker is not just an attack on a ship. It is an attack on confidence. A missile launch is not just a military action. It is a message to governments and markets. A threat does not always need to hit its target to create pressure. Sometimes the fear of impact is the weapon. And that leads to the central question of the entire conflict. If the Strait of Hormuz is so important, who actually controls it? The side with the largest weapons, or the side that can control uncertainty? Because the first phase of this confrontation appeared to be about missiles and ships. But underneath the surface, something else was developing. A struggle between two different visions of modern warfare. One built around creating vulnerability, the other built around eliminating vulnerability before it appears. And the deeper this conflict goes, the clearer one thing becomes. The Strait of Hormuz is not only a waterway. It is a test of whether old ideas of power can survive a new battlefield. -T2. Everyone thinks this battle is about missiles and ships. But the real battle is about controlling decisions under uncertainty. That is the transformation that changes the entire story. Because the Strait of Hormuz is not simply a place where weapons meet. It is a place where strategies are tested. Iran's approach relied on a familiar asymmetric idea. If a smaller force cannot match a larger military directly, it can create enough complexity to overwhelm that military's ability to respond. Make every ship defend itself. Make every commander question the next move. Make every economic actor wonder whether the risk is becoming unacceptable. But the problem with this strategy is that uncertainty works both ways. A weapon designed to create confusion can become ineffective when the enemy understands the system behind it. The drone may still fly. The missile may still launch. But if the defender already knows where it is coming from, what path it will take, and how to respond, the psychological advantage begins to disappear. The Strait of Hormuz reveals a deeper military lesson. Technology does not win wars by existing. It wins wars by changing decisions. A radar is not valuable because it detects objects. It is valuable because it gives commanders more time. A fighter aircraft is not valuable because it carries weapons. It is valuable because it changes what the opponent believes is possible. A defensive system is not only protecting territory, it is shaping enemy behavior before the battle begins. That is the invisible battlefield. Because modern warfare increasingly revolves around one question: who is forced to react? And who gets to decide? This is why the destruction of sensors can sometimes matter more than the destruction of weapons. A missile launcher can be replaced. A drone can be rebuilt. But when an enemy loses its ability to understand the battlefield, every future operation becomes harder. The battlefield becomes slower, less certain, more expensive, and uncertainty begins working against the attacker. For much of history, military strength was measured by what could be destroyed. How many ships? How many aircraft? How many missiles? How efficiently can a force create effects? A country can possess thousands of weapons and still struggle if those weapons cannot create meaningful outcomes. Another country can possess fewer weapons and still dominate if its systems connect faster, adapt faster, and impose greater costs. The Strait of Hormuz demonstrates this shift perfectly. The contest is no longer simply between cheap drones and expensive interceptors. It is between entire military ecosystems. One side tries to create pressure through volume. The other tries to defeat volume through networks. And the winner is not necessarily the side with more weapons. It is the side whose system continues functioning under pressure. But here's the problem. No defense is permanent. Every advantage creates a new vulnerability. A powerful surveillance network creates dependence on satellites, communications, and data systems. Advanced technology requires industrial capacity. Long campaigns require political endurance. The invisible battlefield has its own weaknesses. And that is why Hormuz matters beyond Iran and the United States. Because every major military power is studying the same question. What happens when drones become common but information becomes rare? What happens when the ability to see becomes as important as the ability to strike? The answers will shape future conflicts far beyond this narrow waterway. Across every region where military competition meets economic dependence, the Strait of Hormuz is a preview of a larger transformation. The future battlefield may not belong only to the nation with the strongest weapons. It may belong to the nation with the strongest ability to connect weapons, industry, and strategy into one functioning system. That is the deeper meaning of this confrontation. The visible war is fought over water. The hidden war is fought over control. Control of information. Control of logistics. Control of cost. Control of time. And time may be the most important weapon of all. Because every day a conflict continues. Every side is forced to answer the same question. Can your system survive longer than your opponents? The question is no longer who has the most missiles. The real question is who can maintain strategic advantage when every weapon creates a new challenge. Every defense creates a new vulnerability. And every battlefield becomes a contest of adaptation. So the final question is this. Will future wars be won by the side that builds the most powerful weapons? Or by the side that builds the system capable of making those weapons matter? Everyone watching the Strait of Hormuz sees the same images. Missiles launching into the night sky. Fighter aircraft crossing above the Gulf. Ships moving through one of the most dangerous waterways on Earth. Radar screens glowing inside command centers. Explosions captured by cameras thousands of miles away. But the battlefield that matters most is not the one visible on satellite imagery. The real battlefield is the one that determines whether a military can continue making decisions after the first strike. Because modern warfare is not only about destroying weapons. It is about destroying the enemy's ability to understand what is happening. And that changes everything. The overnight exchange in the Strait of Hormuz looked like a missile battle. But underneath the surface, it was something much larger. It was a battle over awareness. A battle over time. A battle over whether one side could still see the battlefield clearly enough to act. And this is the part most people miss. The most valuable target in modern warfare is often not the missile launcher. It is the information network that makes the missile launcher dangerous. A missile without targeting information is just a piece of metal moving through the sky. A drone without navigation is just an aircraft with no purpose. A fleet without sensors is just a collection of ships floating in uncertainty. The weapon is only the visible part. The invisible system behind it is where strategic power actually exists. This is why the destruction of covalent systems matters more than the individual drones that were intercepted. The drones were the attack. And future attacks become harder before they even begin. On a digital battlefield map, the change would not look dramatic. A few communication nodes turn red. A few signals go silent. But those small changes represent something much bigger. A military force losing pieces of its ability to make decisions. And that creates a dangerous question for Iran. If every attack begins by revealing the location of the systems that support it, how many times can those systems be rebuilt? Because the second battle is always more expensive than the first. The first radar can be hidden. The second radar has to survive what destroyed the first. The first launch site can be protected. The second launch site must exist in an environment where the enemy already understands the pattern. This is the hidden mathematics of modern warfare. Every strike creates information. Every attack teaches the enemy something. Every failed operation becomes a lesson for the opponent. The side that adapts faster gains an advantage that cannot always be measured by destroyed equipment. It is measured by shrinking options. This changes the meaning of the entire conflict. Everyone thinks this battle is about missiles and interceptors. But the real battle is about controlling decisions under uncertainty. The side that understands faster. The side that can coordinate across air, space, and cyber domains. That side gains the ability to shape the battlefield before the enemy realizes the battlefield has changed. This is why the American response has focused so heavily on networks. Not because missiles are unimportant, but because missiles are only dangerous when connected to a larger system. Sensors collect information. Artificial intelligence and command systems process it. Weapons respond. Operators make decisions. Break one part, and the entire machine becomes slower. And, in war, speed is power. But here's the contradiction. The same technology that gives the United States an advantage also creates a new vulnerability. A highly connected military is powerful, but it is also dependent. Every sensor, every data connection, every command network creates another point that must be protected. The future battlefield is not only about attacking enemy weapons, it is about attacking the connections between them. This is why countries around the world are investing heavily in electronic warfare, cyber operations, artificial intelligence, and autonomous systems. Because the next generation of warfare may not begin with an explosion. It may begin with confusion. A radar screen that shows the wrong picture. A communication network that delays information. A command system that cannot determine what is real. The first shot may not destroy a target. It may destroy confidence. And that leads to the next strategic question. What happens when both sides can attack each other's ability to understand the battlefield? Because technology is creating a strange new reality. Weapons are becoming cheaper. But information is becoming more valuable. A drone costing tens of thousands of dollars can force a nation to reveal billions of dollars worth of defensive architecture. A missile that never reaches its target can still achieve something if it forces the enemy to reveal its response. A failed attack can still provide intelligence. This is why modern warfare cannot be measured only by explosions. The battlefield has expanded. The weapon is physical. The competition is systemic. The Strait of Hormuz represents this transformation perfectly. A 21-mile passage connecting the Persian Gulf to global energy markets. But strategically, it is something much larger. It is where military power meets economic power. Where naval strategy meets global energy security. Where a regional conflict can influence fuel prices. And international politics. An anchor moving through the strait is not just a ship. It is part of a global system. Millions of barrels of oil, industrial supply chains, national economies, political stability, all moving through the same narrow corridor. That is why the strait has always been more than geography. A place where a relatively small military action can create global consequences. And this creates another contradiction. Iran does not need to defeat the United States militarily to create pressure. It only needs to create enough uncertainty. That has always been the logic behind asymmetric warfare. A smaller power does not attempt to match a larger power weapon for weapon. It attempts to make the larger power spend more, worry more, adapt more, The goal is not always victory. Sometimes the goal is cost. But here's the problem. Isometric strategies only work when the stronger opponent cannot adapt. Once adaptation occurs, the entire calculation changes. The same drone strategy that once threatened expensive defenses can become the reason those defenses evolve. The same missile threat designed to create political pressure can become the reason more advanced systems are deployed. The weapon designed to exploit a weakness can reveal the weakness and accelerate its disappearance. This is the paradox of modern military competition. Every innovation creates a counter minus innovation. Every advantage creates a search for a new vulnerability. The battlefield never stays still. And that may be the most important lesson from the Strait of Hormuz. The future of war will not belong simply to the country with the most missiles, or the largest navy, or the most expensive aircraft. Those things still matter. The decisive advantage may belong to the country that can build and adapt faster than its opponent. Industrial capacity, technology development, economic resilience. These are becoming weapons. The battlefield is expanding beyond the front line, into factories, into supply chains, into computer networks, into political systems, into public perception. The war being fought over the Strait of Hormuz is therefore not only about whether missiles hit targets, which side can absorb losses, because every military campaign eventually reaches the same question. Not who can strike first, but who can continue after the first strike. The question is no longer who possesses the most powerful weapons. The real question is who can survive a battlefield where every weapon creates a new vulnerability, and every advantage forces the enemy to evolve. If future wars are decided by systems rather than individual weapons, will victory belong to the nation with the strongest arsenal, or the nation that can adapt faster than anyone else? That is the debate that the Strait of Hormuz may already be revealing.